Welcome to the My Career, My Future with Full Moon Farm. This is Miss Jen French and Kevin French. They own the farm. They today are just going to share the career pathway of owning your own farm and agriculture and things like that. So it's your opportunity to learn about the pros and cons of self-employment. You're also going to learn just about the importance and rewards of agriculture itself. And then they'll talk about some of the products that they do, and you guys can ask any questions you want. Yep. All right.
Well, I'm glad you all came. Thank you for coming today. I used to be a teacher here at LRTC, so it's really fun to come back and see everybody and see Mrs. Ouellette and Mrs. Tatro and Adrian, who was a former student of mine, so very cool. We're going to talk to you a little bit about farming as a career today. We own a farm in Wolfboro, and we both had previous careers, but this is what we're doing now, full-time farming. So, first I want to know from you guys why you're here. So raise your hand if you're here because Mrs. Ouellette signed you up. Raise your hand if you're interested in farming. This side of the room. Yeah, it can be more than one thing, so good point. Are you interested in flowers? Growing flowers, arranging flowers? Hemp, one of the crops we grow? Very good question. I'll talk about it a little bit more. And you didn't have anywhere else to be? Haha. Okay, good enough. You came with a friend. Well, you're here, and we're glad you're here. I'm going to make the presentation pretty quick. Hopefully, it's going to generate some interest on your part so that you have some questions for us, okay? Because farming is not really a common career in this day and age. A lot of people don't go that direction, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's kind of more old-fashioned career, but there are a lot of really cool things about it too. So, for me, I love to be outside. I really struggle with four walls, fluorescent lights. It's dirty, and I don't mind getting dirty. At the end of the day, I feel like I've done something really authentic if my hands are dirty and my knees are dirty. It's fun, and it really is fun, and it's really rewarding. So at the end of the day, we can look and see, we have like an authentic product, right? I have 50 bouquets of flowers, or we have 20 boxes of strawberries, or we have vegetables we're gonna eat for dinner. So it's just a very, you can see what you do every day. What about you, Kev? Why do you love it?
So there's many sides of it. So there's like our side where we are growing fruits and vegetables and flowers. There's also the agricultural side where you're doing animals and raising that side of it. It's probably the most rewarding thing is you never quite know what you're really doing. It always keeps you on your toes. I mean, you need to know a little bit about everything. You need to know something about electricity. You need to know something about welding. You need to know something about the earth. You need to try to keep track of weather. It is always kind of throwing you like in different directions, which kind of always keeps your mind working and entertained. You're never going to figure it out totally, but it's very, like she said, very rewarding when you can grab that box of strawberries that you knew you grew and you can eat them knowing that there's no chemicals on them because of the way you farm, depending on how you farm. So that's, to me, the most rewarding, is to get a top quality product that you can produce yourself. Like we all know where we go to the grocery store, you can buy things. Somebody else has produced them. You don't know where it's come from. You don't know how it's been grown. You don't know how it's been processed. So you may get a strawberry and it may have 15 different chemicals on it from the system of how the system works. But if you grew that strawberry and you only gave it water and it grew from the soil that you had in your yard, that's what it would have. It would have natural ingredients in it from the ground, and that's all it would have. So you as a farmer control what you can input to yourself and the people that surround you.
People is a good one. So a little bit about our farm. We own 38 acres in Wolfboro. Do you guys know where the Abenaki ski area is? So just past that is Wambeck Road, and we're on the corner of Wambeck Road and 109A. Grady's been to our farm before. We actively farm 2 acres. And that comes as a surprise to a lot of people, because a lot of people see a barrier to farming as, oh my gosh, I have to buy this huge plot of land. We make a full-time living farming 2 acres of land. And we know other farmers who only own 2 or 3 acres and are able to do that as well. But we are fortunate we have all this other land. Our season is very seasonal. We're only growing. We start actually seedlings in March, but we're only selling products May through September. So we have to make all of our money in that short span. We are organic. Although we're not certified, we use no chemicals, no pesticides, no herbicides, nothing on our products. They are clean. That is to keep our products clean, and it's also to keep our land and our ecosystem healthy. Kevin is a retired stonemason. Any of you guys seen the Indian on Bay Street? Okay, he does a lot of really cool stuff. He handles a lot of the mechanics. He went through power mechanics here at the tech center. So he fixes the tractors and the rototillers and the gator and the golf cart. He does all the field and bed prep, so plowing, fertilizing. He does cover crops, which is planting crops on bare land to help the soil improve, and then they get plowed in. Handles our irrigation, fertilization with organic fertilizers. He builds our compost piles, which is what we put back into the land. We have compost piles as big as high as this room. And then he's also our chief floral designer. So all the high-end floral design, like bridal bouquets, fancy houses, Kevin does. And that's kind of interesting in the industry. People often think that flower design is a female sort of occupation. But some of the best flower designers I know are men, and I think artistry translates. He's an artist with stone, and he builds absolutely beautiful things with flowers. So me, I'm a retired teacher. I used to teach here. I was the health teacher at Kingswood, and then I was down here at LRTC for work-based learning. I do a lot of the planning and ordering. I do marketing and sales, seed starting, planting things, cutting flowers, and bouquet production. So my team we turn out 150 bouquets a week from our farm. So that's just a little bit about our background. And that's our farm. So aerial view, this right here is in cover crop. You see this whitish stuff? That's buckwheat, which is a crop Kevin plants, and it grows real fast, and then he plows it in. It also attracts bees. I think our crops rotate every year. That's part of keeping our land healthy. So the same thing is not always in the same place. This year we had strawberries back here, we had flowers here, perennial flowers there, and then that was a giant sunflower field. Something we haven't done again. We have raspberries here, and we have about 200 peony plants here too. So we move everything around a lot. These guys are tunnels. Our greenhouse, which is heated and cooled, and then these 3 are the unheated tunnels. And they let us start plants earlier in the season because it protects them from frost, and they let us grow plants later in the season. So with climate change, there's a lot of fluctuation in the weather. You guys see it, right? It's freezing cold, it's blazing hot, the wind's blowing, the rain's flooding you, we have a drought. Managing tunnels and irrigation and stuff gives us some sort of recourse for all the climate change, keeping things more steady. So infrastructure, kind of like the things we use, we have that 1,000 square foot heated greenhouse, probably about as big as 2/3 of this room, where we start all our seeds. We have the 3 tunnels I just showed you. We put in a farm well 3 years ago, which means we actually dug this huge pit that feeds frost-free hydrants at different growing areas. Prior to that, water was a huge issue for us. We were trying to collect it off our barn roof, we would haul it from the lake, we'd use our house well. We never had enough water, and things don't grow well when you don't have enough water, and we spent so much time and energy hauling hoses and stuff like that that it was just exhausting. We're not young anymore. So that was a really big investment. If you have a farm, you need water, a really good water source. We have a walk-in cooler in our barn that's about 10 feet by 12 feet where we store all of our cut flowers. Kevin has created a floral design studio in our barn. We actually have 2 now. He has his for wedding work and I have mine for bouquet work. So our barn is wicked cool. And then we have a farm stand on our farm that's climate controlled, so it's air conditioned in the summer because flowers don't like to be too hot, and the vegetables and the flowers all go in there. So those are things that we've all built, right? We bought this farm 26 years ago, and it was just a farmhouse with a raw piece of land. And these are all things we've added, and I'm sure there are actually many more, and we continue to add things all the time. That's not covering tractors. We have 3 tractors, a John Deere Gator, a tiller, a compost spreader, 2 Bobcats. A lot of that equipment, ironically, translated from Kevin's business as a stonemason, like the Bobcats, and now they are invaluable in our farm work. Because when he goes to turn a compost pile as tall as this room, using a Bobcat makes that much easier, right? Or moving gravel around or whatever we're doing. So it's translated nicely. So here's a couple of our tunnels in the background. These are what's called low tunnels. So we put these over our early spring plants, and again, they mitigate the climate. So they keep frost from getting on them, they keep them a little warmer during the day, and they keep deer from eating them, which is a huge problem we have on our farm. So these low tunnels are kind of important. These are a couple of tables in our greenhouse. I'd guess that's probably early April. We fire up the greenhouse March 1st every year when we plant a ton of seeds, and we water them every day. And then over here, this is a glimpse of our barn when I'm full of flowers. So these counters have all been built in. We have a sink and a bucket washing area. And then we have another studio that's even a little more refined than that. But they're all pieces of what we do. Everything works. So what do we grow? Primary crop is cut flowers. So we grow rows and rows and tunnels full of snapdragons and peonies and ranunculus and lisianthus and dahlias and zinnias and you name it, all kinds of flowers. We sell them in bouquets. We design flowers for weddings and events, like we'll put centerpieces on tables for brunches or what have you. And then we have floral design workshops, which are super fun, where people actually come and learn how to arrange flowers. And there's some really fancy intensive ones, and then there's some, I call it Flower Power Hour, where people come for an hour and they build a mason jar with flowers, and we have a playlist, and it's just really fun. They like to play with flowers, right? Flowers are fun and cool. Our secondary crop, this is probably 80% of what we do. Hemp. So somebody asked earlier, what is hemp? Hemp is a cannabis plant, just like marijuana, okay? Difference is marijuana has high THC, that's what gets people high, right? And low CBD, which is a byproduct of cannabis plants that helps with sore muscles and anxiety and other things. Hemp is the opposite. It has very, very low THC. It will not get you high, but it has high CBD. So we make salves for sore muscles, we make bath bombs, we make gummies that help people sleep. And we have to have a federal license to grow it. And the federal government does come out and visits in their federal jackets and their federal mobiles to make sure we're not growing pot, basically. Has to be tested, has to be, we go through a lot of, Kevin has to re-up.
Yeah, it's controlled very well. So in 2018, the government re-regulated the cannabis plant and realized that hemp, because it doesn't have THC in it, it should be categorized just as a plant. And it was like one of the first industries in the United States was growing hemp. It's a fibrous plant, so they really make rope out of it, make clothing out of it. There's a lot of things you can do with the plant. And like she says, it doesn't have THC and it has very little. So the government does test it. Everything gets tested, everything is controlled, or not controlled, regulated, it's looked over. And that's just to keep the product to what it's supposed to be, so that you're not inbreeding things and trying to change what the product is designed for.
And by regulated, they fly over our property with the satellites and take pictures every week.
Yeah, so our property gets a tag, like I have a license, and then when I plant my crop, it gets a tag, and we all know that satellites going around our Earth all the time. Well, those satellites go by my house 3 times a day, and they'll take a picture of my field. So they can keep track of everything that I'm growing on that side of things.
On the hemp side of things. They don't care about our flowers.
And eventually, I mean, you know, it's tricky because it's a cannabis plant. So people, it looks like a marijuana plant, but it's not a marijuana plant. So there's that side of it. But it's non-narcotic. It's not and it is federally legal to grow. So.
We actually did a partnership with UNH this summer where they came out to do a forum on growing hemp in New Hampshire at our farm. And people were able to join and ask questions about how do you do it, how do you get your license to do it, what's beneficial about it, what's not. And we're in year 4, 5,
Yeah.
so we're still learning.
And the reason I started growing it, because doing masonry over the years, I beat my body up. You know, you guys will get there. You're going to beat yourselves up over time, and you'll get sore muscles and ripped ligaments and just bad joints. You know, the hemp. I took a bath bomb one time that had the CBD in it, and it was that I realized how much it affected my body and how much it saved, kind of on the aches and pains. And that's where we went to the point to where we got to get my license and then start growing it so that we could produce the product ourselves, knowing what's in it. You know, same thing. We like to know what's in the stuff we use.
And it's organic, just like everything else.
Yes.
Huh.
So let's talk about organic a little bit. Organic is the use of chemicals, whether it be a spray, any type of thing that's on something. So if you take a tomato and you spray it with a wax to protect it from the bugs, it's not going to be organic anymore. Organic is just doesn't have any chemicals to it. You don't have to grow everything organically. Sometimes you can't grow things organically. You have to add something to it, but it wouldn't have to necessarily be a chemical. Or you could just say, I'm going to lose that product. It's not worth it to me to add a product to it to make it, to get this product. I'm going to just not do that and allow the crop to, just get diseased or whatever's going to happen. So it's a choice on how you grow. A lot of our food is not produced organically. It's produced so that it is saleable. If you buy a tomato and it's perfect, it's probably because it has so much stuff on it and it's produced that way to manipulate its growth so that it looks perfect. Most tomatoes, if you grow them yourselves, you realize they're not perfect. They're gonna have blemishes, they're gonna have flaws, but that's kind of what makes nature.
And they're going to taste better if you grow it yourself. Totally taste. Does anybody have a garden? So you know that what you pick out of your garden tastes way better than what you can buy at the grocery store, right? So that's a really important value that we have, is that, and I'll talk a little bit more about the ecosystem, but not putting chemicals onto the land, not, just preserving and protecting it. We do grow some strawberries and vegetables, but those are really, really secondary crops. They're kind of things we grow for fun, for ourselves. Used to grow more of them, but when I had to start making a living farming, I had to think about what I could actually make money on. So this is a flower crop in our tunnel. These are snapdragons in early spring. That is hemp. It's a cannabis plant, right? We grew 200 last year, 200 plants. And then our strawberries, which when we get a good crop are really wonderful. So the rewards of agriculture, and we've sort of touched on this a little bit as we've been talking. Nobody's farming anymore, right? Land keeps getting bought up to be developed. There's no open land. We need open land to grow food so people will eat. So we also really love teaching about agriculture because there aren't a lot of places to learn about it, and we want more people to get inspired by it. The ecosystem, and Kevin is the master of this, keeping it healthy, not just for plants, but for people. We want ourselves, our family, our kids, our grandson to grow up running around on land that does not have chemicals on it. And that's a kind of a balance, and I wish we had more time for Kevin to go into that, but of, not freaking out when we see a bug on a plant. Wait and see what happens. Maybe another bug is gonna come in and take care of that bug. Or like he said, maybe we're gonna say, you know what, rather than spraying chemicals, we're not gonna have snapdragons this year because we don't wanna go that far with it. So making sure that, the wildlife, the air, the water, the plants, the people are all healthy where we work, that's really important to us. I guess we're kind of renegades a little bit, fighting back against greed in land development, because as Wolfboro gets more and more developed, our 38 acres with 2,000 feet of road frontage become more and more valuable. And most people would look at that and say, wow, I could sell that to a developer for a lot of money and go sit back on a beach. And we're like, no, not gonna do that. I dream about putting it into like the Maine Botanical Gardens kind of thing, an educational farm, so it will always stay agricultural. Talked a little bit about authentic work. You can see, you're tired at the end of the day, but you may sit down and eat the strawberries you grew. It's physical, and I like to be physical. I've learned that in my old age. I get antsy if I am not breaking a sweat or, sore and tired at the end of the day, and we're not young. Kev's 50, you're about to be 56 and I'm about to be 60. So staying busy, staying active, really, really important to me. Connect with the land, the seasons, the weather, not the internet. I was talking with Adrian a little bit about that. When you're farming, you go with the flow. In summer, we work 14, 16 hours a day. In winter, we do some computer work, we do some planning. We might only work 4 hours a day. We might not get out of bed till 8 o'clock. In the summer, I'm up at 5. Weather, if it's bitter cold out, we're not going outside. If it's a gorgeous day, we're gonna work every minute out of that day that we can. Kevin always says that, you gotta do it when you can do it. And I tend to be like, well, I'm tired. And he'll be like, it's a perfect day and this needs picking or planting or weeding. We have to go do that. So we get that done. And it's also really beautiful. Like when I'm surrounded by buckets and buckets of flowers that we've picked at the end of the day, or we're delivering a wedding to people, or I don't know, just walking out there and the bluebirds are flying around and who knows what's running through the field, a bear, a deer, what have you. It's really beautiful. So anything you want to add, darling?
I don't think so. I mean, it is, like she was saying, it is one of those things, when it needs to happen, it needs to happen. That is one thing you'll have to learn if you get into the field like that. If the strawberries need to be, if they're ripe that day, you pick them that day. Because if you don't, the bugs are going to eat them that night, or the birds are going to eat them the next morning. So it is one of those things that it's like you got your schedule at school when you have to be here and you have to be there. Like you said, it's kind of a waste of time if you have 10 minutes and you only need 3. Because you could spend that other 7 doing other things that needed to be done during the day. And farming is that way. When it calls, you do it. But the rewards are
magical. Right? This little baby was playing around with Kevin 2 years ago in the field in the morning, coming up and sniffing his hands. We have baby chickens and little children. Kids love to eat strawberries. It really feels magical a lot of the time to me. This is us. We went for an evening walk last spring and I realized that the peony field had bloomed since I picked it 4 hours ago, so we had to pick a big thing of peonies, a cart of snapdragons, and there's one of our brides from a couple years ago, Meryl, with our flowers. So a lot of beauty, challenges and workarounds, land prices. But like I told you guys earlier, you can farm intensively, food, flowers, whatever you want, on a couple of acres. You do not need to own 20, 40, 60 acres.
You need a couple acres. I mean, if you wanted to, vegetable farm, flower farm.
Anything. You don't need the amount. People think, oh, I need a vast piece of land. You don't.
I think that's more for like animals.
Yes. Yeah, you need more land if you're going to raise cows, for sure.
Because there is this thing where, a cow needs a certain amount of square footage to be able to survive. But that's different in today's reality world because no one has open fields and things. So you're buying most of your product to feed your animals anyways. So those rules really don't apply to the way it's designed for how it should be. You know, when I grew up and we would hay every summer. We had animals. My mom had 14 or so horses, and we had a dozen cows. So to feed those animals through the winter, we spent our summers haying. And I learned how to drive a tractor. I learned how to fix balers. I learned how to read hay and read the actual ground and smell it by knowing when it was ripe and when it needed to be cut and how to dry it properly so that it survived the course of 4 months to be a good bale of hay in the spring for the animals to eat.
So he's right. If you want to farm horses, cows, whatever, you're going to need land. But if you want to grow vegetables, fruit, flowers, you don't need a lot. Labor is tricky in any environment, trying to pay the prices, you know, that labor requires. Perceived value of products. People will look at me and go, well, why should I pay you $10 for a quart of strawberries when I can buy one for $3 at the grocery store? Well, ours are grown organically and, you know, chemical free.
Tasted the difference too. So something that is grown fresh and right in your yard is going to taste 80% better than that strawberry that gets shipped across the country.
And a lot of times once people taste it, they don't question the price anymore because it's so much better, right? Equipment costs, tractors aren't cheap, but you can start really small. You can start with a rototiller and have a farm. And then personal health. One of the biggest fears I have is what if I break a leg? What if he throws his back out? I mean, we're the backbone of the farm and we're not young. So that's always, you know, you gotta be healthy to farm. You do. This is our team. Just briefly, you might know some of these people. Marcella and Andrea both graduated Kingswood. Cooper Place is here now. He's been with us for 3 years. Ellie Fuller, she'll be with us for 3 years. She's a freshman this year. And I don't know if any of you guys know Mrs. Straz. She works for us on the farm in the summer a couple of days a week too, as well as Kevin and I. We're always looking for help, especially flower cutters. It's an early morning job, like 7 to 10 or 11, but we're also looking for planters, weeders, all kinds of farm management. It's a happy, healthy place to work. It's really beautiful. Like these are some of the bouquets we build. You know, they're not your average sunflowers and weedy looking flowers. They're really high-end stuff. So we've only got a couple minutes, but anybody have any questions?
I drive by your farm every day to go home, and I noticed you have like a 70s brown Ford.
God bless you.
That's a 77 F-250. When I was 16 years old and here at Kingswood, I bought the same truck from Ossipee, and of course back then it wasn't that old. And then when I graduated Kingswood, I'd gone through Power Mechanics and started working at the Ford garage downtown. So I became a Ford mechanic, and I've always been a Ford mechanic. So yeah, when I found that truck, I snapped it up. But I've been back in 15. My other truck lasted a long time.
10 or 15 years.
For the 351 and my original one, I put a Cleveland in there. What other questions about it? I can tell you anything about it.
Everybody asks about that truck. And a funny story, when we used to have strawberry picking, Jimmy Fallon would come every summer with his family to pick strawberries, and he wanted the truck. He saw Kevin drive, he's like, cool truck, man, I love that truck. So it does, it's pretty cool.
Still runs really good. I had it repainted. It does need a little bit of body work. But you'll see a new kind of old thing there this summer. It'll be interesting if you drive by it today. The 35 Chevy Coupe. Brothers Coupe.
You're welcome to stop in to the farm anytime. If you're ever curious.
You get old things and you got to kind of work with old things. You get, at least that's how I grew up farming. I mean, I still have my, well, actually it's gone now because I let it go, but we have the family tractor.
Nobody can afford to go out and buy all new farm equipment. So basic mechanic skills, really good skills to have. Welding skills, electricity. I couldn't do this without his skill set.
It's gonna throw something at you every day. You know, you're gonna break something, you're gonna need something, you're gonna learn something. every day. It's definitely a career path that you'll never
1
know
minute.
anything about, but you'll have fun doing.
Never get bored.
No.
You never ever get bored.
And like, so ecosystem, like when we say like no chemicals on the farm, we bought our farm, it used to be hayed, we hayed it when I first got there. We would hay it and we'd try to grow flowers, and the flowers would get eaten by bugs. Eventually, I gave up haying, but it was a life thing, you know. I hayed every year of my life, but I gave it up, and now I let the field grow naturally, and I don't hay it, and all the bugs live there and don't eat our flowers. So it's one of those things that, you know, kind of if you're taking everything off your land and not giving anything back, it's going to fight you. If you allow it to kind of balance itself out, it's going to fight you.
So you guys, you can follow us on Instagram. It's Full Moon Farm NH if you want to know more about the farm and what we're doing. Always welcome to stop by. We love visitors. We're an open community there. If you're curious about something, or if you or somebody you know wants a job, come see us. Yeah, Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to them. If you have questions, feel free to hang out for a minute. I'll give you back to your next class. All right. But after this time.
Thank you so much for coming, you guys. It's fun for us to come back.